We have another very special treat here in this next session. We're going to hear about the importance of frontier technologies on national security. So our moderator is Lawrence Pace, and he will introduce his panelists here shortly. But first, a little bit about Lawrence and the National Reconnaissance Office, or the National Reconnaissance Organization, NRO as we know them, is one of 18 different U.S. intelligence organizations that provide overhead intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance to the U.S. government. Mr. Lawrence Pace is NRO's first agency chair to the National Intelligence University, and he's NIU's first chief diversity officer. As agency chair, he is principal liaison to the NRO leadership, and he supports intelligence and national security professionals, serving NIU students, research fellows, faculty, and staff. Mr. Pace is the cohort lead for a course that he designed for students to conduct graduate level research on various aspects of quantum technology, including quantum ontology, quantum sensing, and quantum computing. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Pace as he comes to introduce the panel. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
I heard some.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. It is indeed a pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. I'd like to first start off by introducing some incredible people that I've had a chance to work with. Starting with Dr. Dixon. She is the Principal Deputy Director of the National Intelligence, where she has spent her career championing change and innovation in the intelligence community. Her unique career path includes science-focused leadership positions at NRO, NGA, as well as job-supporting IC oversight committees on Capitol Hill. Now, Admiral Sharp, retired.
Retired.
He served as the director of NGA from February 2019 until June 2022. He is known for his extensive experience developing and motivating cohesive teams to solve complex problems in dynamic situations. He leveraged the global pandemic challenges as an opportunity to reimagine and improve business processes, helping his agency emerge stronger, more agile, and more human from the experience. But this is what I really want everyone to tune into with what I'm about to share before we get started. In 2019, pre-pandemic, is when these two incredible people met. Shortly after taking over NGA, Admiral Sharp found himself in need of a deputy. He sought long and hard for the perfect candidate. You notice I didn't say just a candidate, but the perfect candidate. When he asked Dr. Dixon to consider applying for the job, her reply was, and this is a quote, let me think about it. Less than 24 hours later, she agreed to throw her hat in the ring, and the rest is history. These two quickly became known as the Wonder Twins.
That's true.
And it's a joy to have them together on this stage. So let's get started.
That was a pretty good lead in there,
That was
Lawrence.
pretty good, yeah.
Was that pretty good?
Yeah, that was good.
I would like to start with, at the National Intelligence University, I am one of 7 co-authors who's exploring the link between quantum science and artificial intelligence and discovering pathways for collaboration. At the IEEE conference last week, I had a chance, me and the team, to talk about future efforts. And what did that look like? Just to name a few. Exploring work with APL, along with Johns Hopkins, supporting undergraduate and graduate research efforts within NIU, the National Intelligence University, expanding collaborative efforts with academia, And last but not least, pursuing grants and other funding streams. First question. Last year, the ODNI released a science and technology investment landscape where quantum technologies are a priority investment. Under the computing header in the unclassified document, photonic quantum computing is listed alongside of a number of things that I will just focus on the modeling and the prediction of algorithms as strategic interests and investment areas. Under the sensors header, quantum sensors appear again as a priority investment area. Dr. Dixon, we'll start with you. Can you share anything about how this landscape is translating into use case development or refinement for the IC, or how industry and academia should interpret the signal the document sends?
I mean, the fact that the intelligence community takes the time to put an unclassified document out for academia and industry to review and to understand where our priorities are should be a very clear signal. And the fact that quantum actually is represented so heavily in the document, as you've noted in the two different categories, means that we are going to be investing, we are investing in quantum technologies. We put those out there to make sure that those who could potentially provide solutions to us have a sense of what our priorities are, and that there will be funding opportunities, whether regular requests for proposals or grant opportunities coming out in the coming years. These sort of guide us and sort of talk about our investment interest areas for several years when we put them out. One way that I can show you that we've actually also been demonstrating this interest. Right now, exactly simultaneous, we have a conference happening that is our IC, Intelligence Community Science and Technology Week, where we have intelligence community postdocs. They and others that we have provided funding to in academia are together sharing their research. But the thing I wanted to highlight is that about a quarter, just over a quarter of our postdocs are actually working on quantum technologies. Wow. So we actually are definitely investing in this, and several of our agencies are working on opportunities, both for the how do we leverage it, but also how do we protect against, yeah.
Very good. Admiral Sharp, from your respective vantage points, both in your prior government hats and just seeing what you're doing in industry and academic perspective now, I'm sure you're not surprised, but by these focus areas, how might you help refine or help shape the focus of the government in highlighting these areas?
Yeah, you know, I read through the focus areas and none of those caught me by surprise at all, right? And some of that is because I've worked with Dr. Dixon for a number of years, and we've been involved in these discussions on technology and the strategic environment. And some of this, I think it's just an opportune time with some really important revolutionary technologies being developed, right? And some of those are in computing, some of those are in sensing, and I heard a previous speaker also talking about working with artificial intelligence or automation, augmentation, and leveraging machines. And we were talking about the fact that those things don't exist in isolation, right? They really need to be looked at and valued together. Since retiring, right, last summer, I'm now dabbling, right? And that allows me to get involved in a myriad of things. And I've been impressed to see some of the progress being made in industry and where we're going with computing and progress that's being made in quantum. I'm impressed by the fact that I think the science is well proven and there's a lot of effort going into developing systems at scale that will allow us to start operating this certainly in the next several years, right? And then hearing the discussions from this forum, just in the small time I was here, others thinking about how we're going to take advantage of that computing once it becomes available, right? Let's not wait until that happens.
Absolutely.
But think it through. And what I've been impressed also in this, and it goes back to what Dr. Dixon said on the significance of letting our requirements from government be noted and unclassified. It's really important that we figure out new ways of collaborating between industry, academia, government, international partners. And you'll hear this from us, I'm sure it'll come up, that one of the things that Dr. Dixon and I are passionate about is the importance of people and partnerships as it relates to the technology.
We will definitely get to that part of it very soon. You said something earlier, and I want to hone in on it. Learning from artificial intelligence. As both of you are aware, there's tremendous amount of attention being paid across the federal government, particularly publicly on the Hill, to artificial intelligence right now. Some argue that this is a late to need, that we are currently grappling with big applications, technical implications, regulatory questions that we should have been discussing much earlier. Prior to the widespread proliferation of technology, how might we learn from what we are encountering in AI space to ensure that we are having the right discussions about quantum technologies now as we continue to finalize and bring online these potentially world-changing capabilities rather than waiting 5 years? So would you like to start?
Sure, absolutely. I think we definitely want to learn from other opportunities, and certainly something else that is in the computing realm should provide a lot of things for us to be able to build upon.
Yes.
I don't want to take away from those researchers who probably were thinking about all of these really hard topics that are sort of tangential to the technology, but it's now a mainstream conversations, which is where we are now, and that's the part I think that we can have that conversation earlier. For example, we talk a lot now about how do you protect civil liberties and privacy with respect to artificial intelligence? How do you make sure that you're not building in biases? The same thing would go true for how we're using quantum technologies, quantum computing in particular, making sure that the same conversations we had for AI can really just be used. But there's probably different ones that also need to be thought about with respect to what quantum technologies are going to be able to do for us.
Absolutely.
Those working in the field understand the potential, understand the possibilities of where this technology will take us. You all really need to be starting the conversation. And I think those of us in government can certainly help amplify it. And certainly on the Hill, as they become smarter about all the possible investment areas, we'll take up that mantle. But I think we can build on.
If I could build off of what Stacey was saying, and push back on the kind of like newness of this, because the technology's new, but these discussions, with new technologies have happened since time began, right, when governments interact. So, I mean, we've always had conversations on how the technology can be used, right? And technology is just technology. It can always be used for good and it can be used for evil. But it's incumbent upon us to be transparent when we're developing technology and regulations and oversight, so that people understand that we're doing the right things and doing them right. And what I get excited about, specifically quantum computing, sensor technology that's coming out, how to collect data, right, make sense out of data, and automating and partnering with machines is, we've always looked at it kind of from a security lens, but the applications are just endless, right? It really impacts everything we're doing as humans on this planet.
Absolutely.
Right? So what we can't do is we can't afford to not show that we will treat the technology properly to the point where we're not allowed to use the technology, right? Because then you're put in a penalty box and technology still advances, right? And you're playing catch up, I think.
And some things, though, you don't actually see until you're out there using it broadly and at scale, but then being able to pivot very quickly and learn the lessons and being able to put in whatever guardrails are needed.
Yeah, and if I could, I'm going to build off this one just because you'll see we do this. This goes also to how can government impact, or how can we impact what those requirements are and how we're advancing. It's creating the environment where that collaboration between government and academia and industry and international partners isn't transactional, right? It's not, I'm going to show you this. We need to create a dialogue.
Yes.
Right? Something that's iterative, where we learn fast and advance together.
What I really love about this discussion is I'm thinking storytelling. and we're sharing our story and our experience here. So you actually got ahead again, Admiral Sharp, but we'll get to that part of the collaboration and international piece, because the relationship and building partnerships and things of that nature is so important. But before I go there, let's talk about the quantum workforce, because clearly there's a people element in everything that we do. So when we think about government, academic institutions, and corporations and how they will need to invest in education and workforce programs to provide individuals with skills and knowledge needed to work in these exciting and rapidly changing fields, as the quantum industry continues to grow, there will be a significant demand for skilled workers. Some are thinking about this strictly in terms of expanding STEAM. I said STEAM because that's another topic, but not for today, is that we have heard so much about STEM. But clearly, as I've been doing some of my research and working with the IC community, is that we cannot move forward without the A. So when we say STEAM, when you hear me say STEAM, we're talking about the arts, because now we're really being inclusive here. Programs and certifications. And others are thinking about the more in terms of creating ecosystems that can advance and reinforce quantum technologies and their creative use. I'm getting there. Here we are. How is, or should, the intelligence community think about this? Are there opportunities to leverage such programs as the IC Centers of Academic Excellence here for talent pipelines?
Yes. So we absolutely know that we're going to need a lot more STEM talent than, frankly, exists in our career, or STEAM talent that exists in our workforces to date. And that the next generations of those who are going to be in, like, kids need to be excited. They need to really understand that there's a future in this particular industry and be willing to go into it. And it's so many different technologies and skill sets that are needed for successful programs. So it isn't just the individuals with just the physics. I mean, there's so many other things that are also needed at the same time.
Absolutely.
The IC Centers of Academic Excellence program is one where we go out to universities, and they generally are partnered universities, but they try to expose the students to intelligence careers, national security applications, and encourage people to try to come into our community and to have the skills that we need in our community. And we do this especially trying to do outreach to some underserved institutions, some minority-serving institutions, but really we partner with a number of universities around the country, helping them understand from a curriculum perspective that this is a curriculum that we'd be interested in having them either add to their portfolio or work with other universities to be able to expose their students to, is one way. Through the research that we do, to the grants we provide, to the hard challenges that we put out into academia and industry, we also believe that we're training that next generation. All of the students that get to work on those programs are understanding and learning about applications not only in our community, but all that they need to learn to be really good practitioners in the quantum fields. So we're sort of doing our part in two different ways, I'd say.
Yeah, and Lawrence, this is an area where both of us are very passionate about, and and I know all three of us are. Probably a lot of people in this audience here too. It's the future generation, right, that workforce. And it's great at one level what we're doing in the universities and expanding our interactions there, but we need to start earlier. And one of the things that Dr. Dixon and I were working on together while we were at NGA is we're building a replacement facility. They're building a replacement facility out in St. Louis. And St. Louis it's in northern St. Louis, underdeveloped, under-resourced area. And St. Louis in that area is trying to rally around those investments to try and grow themselves as a global hub for geospatial technology, research, and talent, right? And it is creating the environment where federal, state, local government is cooperating with business development, is cooperating with industry partners, is cooperating with academic and nonprofit organizations to start to reach into the K through 12, K through 16, retooling people, right, skills. Everybody, right? We want to reach out and get them aware of early and invest in them throughout their professional development, their educational development. And I'm excited about that. I'd love to see that model replicated elsewhere. because the future generation isn't just going to like miracle itself into existence, right? It's
Absolutely.
Stacey's heard me that I believe in intrusive talent management when it comes to humans, and some people cringe when I say that because they say, you know, intrusive sounds really intrusive. I'm like, when you're talking about humans, that's what you have to do. You have to roll up your sleeves and invest time and energy and resources in growing our future. And I think you all know, I mean, it is our future.
That's right.
Right, and we can't complain about it at the level where you just say, hey, I can't recruit from the existing pool. You need to start growing that pool, right? And if we can all do that cooperatively and value that, this country, this planet is going to be a better place.
Absolutely. Both of you have touched on something that's really important, and it's about the pipeline. Yeah. And if we don't do what we're doing now, so thank you, Dr. Dixon, for your vision and being able and supporting the STEM initiative, and you, Admiral Sharp. So when you look at, you know, your careers and things that you've done, you know, this is really critical, but building off of that with others, being inclusive, being collaborative, back to these partnerships, things of that nature, which gets to the next question. Quantum technologies. So in September 2021,
We're fine.
Yeah, thank you. September 2021, the UK, Australia, and the United States agreed upon a trilateral defense and security partnership. And quote, help sustain peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region. The second pillar focuses on developing a range of advanced capabilities to share technology and increase interoperability between our three countries, armed forces, and national security communities. So when we look at our three countries, look at the three countries and quantum arrangement, we look at accelerating the investment to deliver generation after next quantum capabilities. The initial focus will be on quantum technologies for positioning, navigation, and timing. For this audience, I think I can safely say P&T. Given your respective experiences at NGA and your Navy experience, Admiral Sharp, and just the oversight of the entire community, Dr. Dixon, can you share some thoughts about why this initial focus between our three countries on P&T and what we should expect that to yield for our three nations?
Do you want to start with this one?
I'll start and then hand off to you.
That's
and I'll address a couple things, and I'm sure that'll leave plenty for you to address as well. I'll start with P&T and the importance of it. And, you know, as with National Geospatial-Intelligence Agency, we do time and space, right? And in discussing sometimes the need for delivering assured positioning, navigation, and timing, and talking to people that don't understand the science behind that, I no kidding, had some of these conversations where somebody asked me, well, who uses that? I'm like, well, everything and everybody, right? And they're like, well, we have GPS. I'm like, well, what if we didn't have GPS, right? I mean, it really is critical to how we function, right, on Earth. So I'm encouraged to see that being, you know, the criticality of that being raised and the cooperation going on between nations to help figure that out together. Then the second thing I'll comment on is the partnering. And, you know, you gave a great example of it, and I'd say that's just one of many examples, right? And while in uniform at one point as a Navy captain, I was working for General Mattis as the Central Command commander, at that time a 4-star Marine, and we had quite a combined forces capability in Tampa. And when he got there, he pulled everybody together and he said, hey, I'm Jim Mattis. You know, I've been doing this for a few years, like 40. And every time And during that 40 years, I found myself in scrapes here and there. And he said every time I looked to my left and I looked to my right, and I saw people in funny uniforms. And he said, I'm not talking about the United States Navy or the United States Air Force. I'm talking about international partners. And he said, you think about this, we, the United States, have never done anything by ourselves. We've always been arm in arm with international partners. So I've always been passionate about the partnerships we've had. I'm just looking at some of the flags represented here, and I'm sure I've worked with every flag that's represented here, right? And the value of that is in building diverse teams, diversity of thought, right? Diversity of perspective. And when I think about those sorts of teams, when I partner with a nation, I not only partner when I was military or in the intelligence community. It's not just partnering military to military or intelligence community to intelligence community. I always considered, like, I get all your friends. You get all my friends, I get all your friends. I get all your smart people, you get all our smart people. And the power of that is you can't really describe, right? In solving complex problems and being agile and moving forward, the more you can expand that perspective, that inclusivity of figuring things out together, the more successful we'll be.
Excellent.
Yes, so I got, since having a chance to work with Admiral Sharp, or with Bob,
Yeah,
I absolutely heard a lot of conversations about PNT and, you know, and all the great stories that he's
I'm not
telling.
a broken record.
Just consistent with your messaging.
Just consistent with my message.
Yes, literally. Like, I got to live with that every day, which was wonderful. I will add in to the piece, like, you know, talking about navigation in particular, like, people get it, you know, going from one place to another, GPS does that. But so many people don't understand that the PNT underpins critical infrastructure, underpins, like, messages getting where they need to go, that keeps financial systems running. So part of it is we worldwide need to understand what we are dependent on so that we can better protect it. Being able to use the newest, greatest technology to support something that underpins so much of what all of us do is sort of a no-brainer. The particular pillar 2 of the AUKUS, is under some, DOD's in charge of that, so, you know, over to them to kind of talk about how they are. But I can tell you a couple of things that we've been doing, not necessarily because of the partnership, but happen to be complementary to it. So within that postdoc program that I mentioned, we actually expanded that, and we actually have Five Eyes partners in the program. And one of the Five Eyes partners actually does have a quantum sensing project that they're working on that we have jointly funded. So you know, sort of putting our money where our mouth is and saying, yes, it's important, and yes, partnerships are important, and none of us has complete autonomy or with respect to where the talent is, right? We can't rely on just ourselves. We definitely need these partnerships because you just never know where the next great idea is going to come from.
8 o'clock last night, I was on a Zoom call with Australia. 8 o'clock in the morning there.
Yeah.
I mean, both of what you just shared really brings it to the heart of not equity, but equality and inclusion. So when we do that with our international partners, and not just our international, but just in state, you know, what we're doing, that's really, really good. We are at the end, but because we have just a few minutes left, I will open up the floor for maybe one or two. I already see a hand up, even with the light in my face. I will do my best to try to manage that. And I see you, sir, over to the far left. We'll come to you first.
Can I recommend it? Can we have both questions up at the same time, and then
Can
we'll
we do
be
that?
able to, like, answer?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Could we?
Also? I know you, Sydney.
Always a real pleasure to talk to IC folks on the record in public. Let me ask, you talked a lot about the potential for quantum. There's also a lot of concern, especially in the IC, about the threat of quantum, about the need to pre-harden our systems with post-quantum encryption. If we could address, you know, the near-term needs there. It's not a 2035 problem, it's really a 2023 problem.
My question is about the IC Center for Academic Excellence, which I felt very excited about as a professor. What do you recommend we create out of those programs? You have a lot of different tracks.
Yeah.
What do you
Yes.
listen do you think is really needed for quantum and related technologies in practice?
Okay. And sometimes the questions overlap. In this case, they do not. So yes, so we have also spent a lot, as much as we're investing in understanding and how do we leverage quantum technology, protecting against the world where quantum computers exist, so post-quantum cryptography is something that we, NSA, NIST, and DHS's CISA, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, put out earlier in the year or late last year a guide on how do you harden your systems against this post-quantum world. So it is important for us to make sure that we are investing in both sides, to make sure that we're protecting ourselves while we also seek to figure out how do we leverage these technologies and use them to the fullest. And so you will continue to hear that. I believe that they've put out, there's something that I think that NIST will be putting out in 2024 that will kind of help continue the progress with that. But there's been calls to try to figure out, what are the best algorithms out there that we can also leverage and use. And so it's sort of like we're all in this together to some extent, and all systems need to be hardened. With respect to ICCAE, yes, we need students who are going to major in the disciplines that are necessary to support quantum technologies and quantum computing and quantum sensing. We also just need students who really get that, one, ability to team with diverse groups of people with different backgrounds, and two, have those critical thinking skills that they're able to really jump in and solve the problems that we know are coming and facing our nation and really the world.
She ended exactly at 0, precise.
There's a big clock in front of her.
Let me tell you, that was perfect. Everyone, let me just take a moment on behalf of Dr. Dixon, Admiral Sharp, want to thank you for participating in this storytelling session, as I like to call it, and we look forward to the next opportunity to share our stories.
Thank you very much.